Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Everyday Jesus. My name is Derek. I'm so glad that you're here. Today I want to talk a little bit about prayer. Now, I've mentioned it a few times in other videos, and you know, I feel like everyone kind of knows that if we're talking about Jesus, there's going to be some prayer involved, right? Jesus wasn't just a moral teacher. He's not just giving us philosophical guidelines. He's talking about a spiritual reality that requires some spiritual involvement. Again, things that sometimes may not make sense to our natural mind. And one aspect of that is prayer. Now, prayer is a huge topic. There's so much we could talk about. So many books are dedicated to it, and there's just so many ways you can approach this. But I want to mention one way that Jesus addresses prayer in Matthew. He's talking a little bit about how to pray, where to pray, and these are. But he does command us. He says, "And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases like the unbelievers do, for they think they will be heard by their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. Pray then like this: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Now, this is a really famous prayer. It's often referred to as the Lord's Prayer. And often it's just recited. We recite that verbatim sometimes. And while I don't necessarily think that's bad, that's not what Jesus commands here. What He commands is to pray like this, He says. He doesn't say repeat these words. He says pray like this. And a main thing that I see at the beginning of that, we're talking here about following Jesus. And the first few phrases there, He says, say, "Our Father in heaven," my Father, my authority, the one who made me in heaven, hallowed be your name. Hallowed just means holy, set apart, respected, and awed. This is a posture thing. We're changing our posture to who God is. We've talked about learning about who God is through learning the commands of Jesus. And the more in love and in awe we become of God's character, the more we can really feel and know this awe and this hallowing. So that's where we begin in prayer. Even before we're asking for what we need, we're putting ourselves in that posture. And then the next one is similar to it. Your kingdom come, your will be done. This is a huge aspect of submission. Jesus is basically commanding us, every time you pray, you're laying down your rights, you're submitting to God. Even if we're asking Him for what we need, prayer as an act is an act of submission, just as following Jesus is an act of submission. So often it's very tempting to make plans and then ask God to bless them. But that's not what Jesus commands us to do. He tells us to ask God for His kingdom, His will, His way to come in us, and I believe through us. And that becomes our desire. That becomes our action. And so I want you to see today that in this journey of following Jesus, wherever you are, such a huge part of this is laying down what I think is right? If I'm following Jesus, if He says go here, but I want to go here, well, then I have a choice. And so I encourage you to pray today with that in mind. Wherever you are, if you've never prayed before, be honest with the Lord about that. You don't have to follow a script in what to say, but you can acknowledge, God, you are different than me. You're above me. Even if I barely believe you're there, maybe I want to. And so I have to acknowledge that you are above me and that you made me and that I am submissive to you. And the amazing thing about this is when we lay down our life, when we give up our life for Him, we give up our will for His, that's when He gives us real, true life. Again, there's so much to cover in talking about prayer, and we'll do more of that here in the next few weeks, the next few months. But Jesus commands and models this kind of prayer. We see in the New Testament, we see Jesus going out early in the morning to pray. We see Him just do that in the middle of His day. We see Him model living a life of submission to God's will, to His own will. It's a weird mystery. But I encourage you to take steps in that direction today. This is not easy. It's not easy, especially as Americans, when we learn to kind of maybe idolize or hold strongly to our will and our independence, our freedom. In a way, coming to Jesus is giving up our freedom. But like we've been saying on this channel, giving up our life for Him is actually receiving it, receiving the life that He gives us, and that He wants for us, and that we want for ourselves. So I encourage you to pray today in any way that you can, in any place, any time, any opportunity that you have. Take a moment in the silence of your mind and of your heart to just lay yourself before God. In all honesty, in all humility, telling Him what you are, what you believe about Him. Be honest with what you believe about Him, and be honest with what you need and want from Him. My family and I are in a time right now, again, where we're praying for some things. At the same time, we know things that we want, and when we need it, when we want it, when we think we need it. At the same time, we have to say, but God, Your will be done. And we believe that even if the way we wanted things doesn't happen, we believe and know that when His will is done, it's better than what we want, than what we think we want. So we're praying in that spirit of God, here's what I want, but my primary prayer is let Your will be done, let Your kingdom and Your way come and rule in my life. So prayer is an act of submission, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a life-giving, empowering thing. Because I know if I'm submitted to this King, I am not on my own. So I encourage you today, pray as submission to God. Bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.